If I could. Great. So we're recording this just so that those who couldn't make it today can, watch this after. And I am going to share my screen. Okay, so hopefully you can all see my screen right now. It should say Project Pythia. So I just wanted to kick things off today by welcoming everyone here and giving a bit of background for what we'll be doing at the virtual school next week. So there's a big team of us. There are 6 or 7 of us that are going to be teaching Python and computing and related topics. So myself and Shanice are 2 of them. And we are taking most of our content from something called Project Pythia. So as you can see from my screen, it's an education and training hub for the geoscientific Python community. So it specifically is for geoscience. It has a large emphasis on ocean science. And so we thought that would be very relevant for the school. And you can read more about this. You can see the website here. I actually can't because my Zoom controls are in the way, but we can send out this link if you're interested. And we're going to use it for the education side. So they have something called the Foundations book. I'm just going to click that, read the Pythia Foundations book, and it takes me to this online book called a Jupyter book. And as you can see, this is a community learning resource for Python-based computing. It has kind of how to use this book. So you're welcome to, this is all freely online, so you can go and look through it. It has kind of foundational skills. There's overview. And we are actually going to cover some of these topics. So today it's getting started with Jupyter. So Shanice will be doing that. And tomorrow we'll be doing some GitHub and Git. And then throughout the rest of the week, we'll cover Python and some more specific packages that are very popular in the geoscience and climate and ocean sciences community. So that's all I will say here. I guess actually very quickly, I'll just mention, so we're going to today go through starting with Jupyter. It has, all of these things. It has some screenshots. It has how to use it. And Shanice will go through this. It has these buttons on the top. I need to move my Zoom out of the way. So it has, it first of all has these kind of contents of this page. So you can say, oh, I want to know what JupyterHub is, and it will scroll down to that part of the page. You can also see these buttons here at the top where my cursor is. So this one here on the right, where it has like an arrow pointing down, is for download. And you can download this as either a Python notebook, which we'll be covering in just a moment what that is, or a PDF. So you can download all of this. This little cat here is the GitHub icon, and we'll be going over what that is. So I'll go through that tomorrow. This, you can take it into full screen mode. And this rocket ship is a link to Binder, which we won't go into at the moment, but it's something where you can actually click that link and you will then see what you're seeing on this page here, open up in a notebook where you can actually run the code. So I know this was a lot, especially if you're new to this, but I just want you all to be aware of that. So I think I will stop sharing and hand it off to Shanice. Oh, and please ask questions as we go. I'll be monitoring the chat. You can also unmute if you'd like.
Yep. Okay. Let me just. I need to hide my controls. Hold on. Can those of you in front of a computer see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so this is actually, so Paige was just showing you this website, Project Pythia, and I'll be going over this section here, getting started with Jupyter, but I loaded up as a, What was that?
Yeah, I have a question, please.
Oh, yes.
This page that is showing on my screen, is it a website or a PowerPoint document that you are sharing with us?
It's a website. I can, Paige, do you want to put the link in the chat?
Yep, I'll do that.
Please, I joined a little bit late. Please, can you paste the link, please?
Yes, I actually haven't shared it yet, so I will share that link. And I also forgot to mention a very important thing here. Sorry, Shanice.
Yep.
For those who are here in previous years, you might remember, if you're new, we will be using a platform called JupyterHub, where you will be able to just click a link and it will take you to what Shanice is about to show you, a JupyterLab and Jupyter Notebook, and you will just be able to run code there. So it should be very easy. The problem is we don't have that set up quite yet. We are hoping to have it set up maybe later today if we're lucky, but it will be set up before next week. So right now, you won't really be able to follow along. So I apologize, but please listen because you'll be using all of this as soon as we get that up. And I will also be sharing in the chat a Google form where you can sign up, and you'll need to sign up at this Google form to get access to this JupyterHub platform. So I will share all of that in the chat so that Shanice can continue, but just so everyone knows.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paige.
Thank you.
So Project Pythia has done a really good job at combining all the information that one needs in order to get started with Python and get started with computing with Python, specifically through notebooks. So a lot of this I'll just be reading off of their curriculum because they've done a really good job. And I may read some things off of their website verbatim, just in case some people are not sitting in front of a screen, they're just listening through audio. So just please, be patient with that so I can accommodate everybody. So this button here that Paige showed you, Binder, this is what I clicked on in order to load up this. So it's basically the same thing as what's on their website, but I want to go over JupyterHub and JupyterLab with this framework just so that we can all start getting familiar with it visually for those of you in front of a computer. So Jupyter, so I'll just start with the overview of what Jupyter is. And Jupyter is a project whose mission is to develop open source software, open standards, and services for interactive computing across multiple programming languages. But for this summer school, we'll be working with Python. And in Jupyter, there are four main components. There are Jupyter notebooks, which Paige has mentioned, and which is what we will be using for a lot of our tutorials. There's Jupyter kernels, JupyterLab, and JupyterHub. So like Paige said, we will have access to JupyterHub probably by tomorrow. And it's basically a JupyterLab. A JupyterHub there's just an extra layer of complexity, which means that you need authentication to use JupyterLab. So I'll first start with the Jupyter notebook. Let me hide this. Okay. So a Jupyter notebook is an open source web application that allows you to create and share Jupyter notebooks. And so notebooks is like what you see right here, what I'm reading from right now. They are notebooks that contain executable code. You can write equations, you can write notes like what you see here. These are regular text. You can have plots in them. Like it says, the code does not have to be just Python. It can be in multiple languages like Julia and R, but for our purposes, we're focusing on Python. And Jupyter kernels they're software engines that will basically help run your code. They come with environment, which we don't have to worry about, luckily, because the hub we will be using already has an environment made with all the necessary packages that we'll need to run our computations that we'll do later this week. And a JupyterLab is a web application where users can create their notebooks and write in their notebooks and explore the data install different software, different packages like pandas and X-ray, which we'll be going over in other tutorials. And a hub, like I said, it's basically like a JupyterLab, but you need authentication in order to use the lab inside the hub. I won't go over this because this is not necessary. I want to go to here, to JupyterLab. So this is another notebook, and on the website here, it's just the next section in this website if you prefer looking on the website rather than the notebook. So I guess I'll just go over first the layout of what we're seeing here. And I like that Project Pythia created this diagram for us. So up here is what they call the menu bar. It's almost pretty intuitive. You know, you have file where you can create a new file like a console, a notebook, a Jupyter notebook, a terminal, which is like a shell where you can also execute commands and code. And I think Paige will go over how to work with terminals in her tutorial. And you can create text files, just regular old text files, or Markdown files, which are kind of like text files, but you can export them as PDFs and make them look nicer. And a Python file, which is what you would use if you wanted to create scripts. And then there's a bunch of options here, like you could save notebook, you can close your tabs, like I have 2 tabs open here right now. You can either close it through here, or you just click on the X here on the tabs that you want to close. And then this side is called a sidebar, and right now we're in the file browser part of the sidebar, and this is where you would just see all the files that you're creating. This is from Project Pythia, so they have a bunch of files where, you know, it's like get started with Jupyter, getting started with GitHub, which Paige will go over tomorrow. And then there's this section here, running terminals and kernels. This is where if you wanted to, so you can close your tabs here, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the tab or the file that you have open it hasn't stopped running. So you would have to go here to shut down the kernel, because remember, the kernel is the engine that runs the code inside your notebook. So you can close the file, but it's not necessarily shut down. So this is where you would shut it down here. And this shows you all the open tabs that you have. So you see I have 2 tabs open here. And then this is a table of contents, which is pretty useful if you have markdown text. This is where they would render to show show you your table of contents. And this part is a bit advanced. We won't really touch this. This is where if you wanted to add extra things like extensions, this is where you would see your extensions here. But we're not going to get into that this summer. Okay, so I guess I can open up a blank notebook and just show you some of the things we can we'll do. Well, it'll be useful to when we have to run some code.
Yeah.
So there's multiple. Oh, is there a question?
No.
Okay. So there are multiple ways to open a new notebook. You can do it here, this blue plus sign, you can click on it. And this is called a launcher. A launcher is just a window with shortcuts where you can quickly access some of the common file types that you would want to open or create. So you can click on notebook. Another way is to go into the menu bar, click on file, go down to new, and go to notebook. That's another way to open another notebook. So I'll just do it here through the launcher. And this is our blank notebook, and it opens up with a blank cell that you can start writing in. I think I should go over what these buttons are first. So this is the save button here. If you want to, save what you're doing, but I think with the JupyterHub that we're going to be using, I think it automatically saves for you after like every 5 or 10 seconds. It automatically saves, but if you want to be extra sure, you could click on it yourself to save your file. This button is to add a cell. So this bar right here where you can write inside is called a cell. And if you want to add a cell, you can click that plus button and you see that there's another line added here. Or there's a shortcut on the keyboard, you would press B to add a cell at the bottom. And if you wanted to add a cell on top, you would click A. I think we can go over the keyboard shortcuts later as everyone has access to the hub and we can work our cells on our keyboard. This is to cut a cell. So if you click this, this will take away this cell and then you could paste it elsewhere. So for example, if you have oh, sorry, it's not a markdown. So for example, I can cut this cell and then I can paste it. Say I want to paste it below this cell, I would just press the V button on my keyboard and you see it pasted it down there. This button is to copy cells. So I can press this, go somewhere else and press V again to paste, and you see it copied it and I pasted right below this cell. This button is to run a cell. So I guess I should start typing. So for example, if I wanted to do 2 + 2, it would give me 4. So you could press this play button to run the cell, which means that it'll execute the cell. So it will run the computation that you put inside. So if you run it, the output is right below and it's 4. But a keyboard shortcut could be 2 + 2. And if you wanted to run it on your keyboard rather than always having to press this button, you would do Shift Return or Shift Enter. And it runs the cell for you. This button is to stop running a cell. So for example, if you have this really long computation that you want to run in one cell, but say as it's running, you notice you made a mistake, like maybe there was a wrong syntax somewhere in your code, you can interrupt the kernel, because the kernel is what's executing the code for you. It's the machine that's running in the background. You can interrupt it by clicking on this stop button right here. That's to the right of the play button. This button is to refresh the kernel, because sometimes the kernel, if it's a lot of complex computations, and your kernel dies or something like that because it's overwhelmed, sometimes you could just restart it and then rerun your computations and it can run smoothly. This button is to run everything, is to run all the cells in your notebook. Say you don't want to have to keep pressing this button for every single cell, because a lot of times in your notebooks you would have like over 100 cells. You could just click on this one button and it'll run it all for you. And this is the download button, which we saw before in the Project Pythia website. These buttons we don't have to worry about here. This button gets you to GitHub, which Paige will go over tomorrow. And I think that's all you need to really know. So I guess some of the things I showed you, how to add a cell. And if you wanted to delete a cell, you can go to this trash bin here all the way to the right at the end of the cell, and it would say delete. And a lot of the buttons on in JupyterLab, if you just put your mouse over it and let it hover, it will tell you what the function of these buttons are. So for example, it shows delete this cell, and it also shows you the keyboard shortcut to the right of that. So if you wanted to just do a quick keyboard shortcut, you just click the letter D on your keyboard twice and it will delete it and it's gone. Or you could just click the trash bin. Let's see. What else, Paige? What else should I go over? Let's see. Oh, a fun thing is you can kind of personalize your JupyterLab by changing the way it looks. So for example, there's Jupyter Dark, where it just makes everything black. It might be better on the eyes if your eyes are sensitive to the screen. I personally like dark, light, so I'm just gonna keep it light. And then you can increase the font size if it's hard for you to see the default font size. Increase code font size. Let's see if it actually did it. Oh yeah, it's kind of increasing a little bit, if you can see. I'll do it one more time, just in case you're not seeing the increase. So you see that the 4 is getting bigger and bigger. Let's see. Language, well, the default language is English, and I think we're going to stick to that. Let's see. What else should I show? Here are more options to, like I said, interrupt the kernel if you want to stop your kernel from running the computations that you're doing. You can restart the kernel, but you can also restart the kernel and clear the outputs of all cells. So for example, here, let me do some more. 2 times 2, I don't know, 197 times 4,000. Now say you want to restart the whole thing and clear all the outputs. You want to clear all of this. It won't clear these because these are Markdown, so I'll delete these. Restart and clear all outputs. It'll ask you to confirm because sometimes, you know, you may click that button by mistake. So I'll just say restart. And you notice that it's blank now. It has the computations that you wrote in your cell, but it took away the output. Sometimes you might want to do that if you want to clean up your notebook and just rerun it just to make sure that the outputs are consistent. If for more complex computations, these will obviously be consistent. Let's see. You can restart your kernel and you can run up to the selected cell. So you would select the cell by just clicking on it, and you notice this blue bar here tells you that this is the cell that you're on. So if I click on this here, so if I go to that, it says restart kernel and run up to that selected cell. So it will restart it and rerun the first 2 cells. So restart. And you see the asterisk symbol shows that it's running. So let's see what else. Oh, sometimes if your kernel dies on its own, you can reconnect to it with this button here. And shut down kernels here. So there are 2 ways to shut down kernel. You can do it through this menu bar over kernel and shut down kernel, or you can go through the sidebar, clicking on this and shutting down by clicking on the X on the respective notebook that you want to shut down the kernel on. I know this is kind of hard to follow because you guys don't have access to the hub yet, because it would be more fun if you could follow along with me. But if you have any questions, please interrupt me. Let's see. I'm trying to think of what else I can do. What else should I do, Paige? I think I went over the main things that we will be using.
Yeah, I mean, you could, I also tuned out a bit so I could make the form, so I might have missed this, but you could show maybe how to right click and download a notebook in case people want to download locally.
Sure. Okay. So the notebook I created here is untitled. So first, I think we should name it, give it a name. So right here, oh, that's another useful thing is that when you click on, say you have multiple tabs open, you click on one of the notebooks, on the side, in the sidebar, you notice that it jumps to the notebook that you're viewing at the moment. So it's very helpful if you have multiple files, you're not sure which notebook you're looking at, it highlights it for you. So I'm going to the notebook that I created. It's untitled, so I will right click and go to rename, and I'll just say, is there a question? Okay, well, I'll just call it Jupyter.
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, I can see you're using is it MacBook or something?
Yes, MacBook. Yep.
Right. So for other computer like that is not iOS, the interface for this notebook are they the same? I mean, because I've actually encountered some discrepancies between using MacBook and a HP laptop. So you see that the functions are quite different. Where you find certain tabs, you can find it in the other one. So
Yeah, so
just-
that's the main reason why we wanted to have access to the hub, because it's the same for everybody, because all you really need is internet, because it's a, as you can see here, it's just it's a website, basically. It's a web platform.
Right.
So
Right.
it doesn't matter what computer you have, what I'm seeing is what you would be seeing if you have a different laptop.
Okay.
And I'm
Thank
pretty
you.
sure you're welcome. And I'm pretty sure the keyboard shortcuts are also the same. Like when I said, press D twice to delete a cell, I'm pretty sure it's the same for all laptops, because the shortcut is specific to the hub. Like they created the shortcuts themselves. And every laptop has the regular keyboard layout. Okay, so to save a notebook, you would right click, and then you could, oh, I'm sorry, download. To download a notebook, because say you want to share it with somebody else. So you would want to take it out of your environment or your hub, because this is specific to you. So you would download it, and then depending on your laptop, for MacBooks, it would just pop up down here or in your downloads folder, and then that's where you could share it. And every Python, every Jupyter notebook has the extension .ipynb. Pi for Python, NB for notebook. Let's see. I can show you guys how to write in Markdown. So Markdown is basically just regular text. So for example, say I wanted to create a title for this notebook. Oh, I went too fast. Let me do it again. So I can go to, I actually don't know how to do it here. I only know how to do it with the keyboard shortcut. So for the keyboard shortcut, you just press M for Markdown. And you notice that it took away the bars here, because the bars represent cells that you can put computations in, and the cells without anything it would be rendered as regular text when you run the cell. So I press enter to get inside the cell, or you can just put your cursor over it and click on it to get into the cell. And if you want to make a title or like a header, you put the # or the hashtag, and then I could say, I don't know, JupyterLab tutorial. And then I press Shift Enter, or I can press this button here to run. And that's your title or your header. If you wanted to make a subheader, I press M, get into the cell. You do two hashtags or # in order to make the font smaller. And if you wanted to make it even smaller, you just keep adding the #. I think the limit is 4 or 5, and after that it doesn't get any smaller. Sub header. And you notice there's this pointed down arrow. It's very useful. They didn't used to have this, but it's useful now, and it helps to collapse things. Say you wanted to clean up your notebook, you could collapse this. I use this all the time because, for example, if I have multiple sections in my notebook, sometimes I just want to jump to the last section and I don't want to have to keep scrolling through. So I would just collapse, like, let's see. Oh, I would have to make this the same size. I can just collapse this so that I can just, it can bring up the section I want closer to the top, so I don't have to continue like constantly scroll through. So I thought that feature was helpful that they added. Let's see. And it's a good way. Yes.
What if I want to increase the font size? What am I going to press?
Do you mean the font size of everything
Yes.
that you're seeing? No. You
Yeah.
go to settings.
Okay.
And then it's increased
class.
Is it text editor?
Increase.
I just had it. Paige, do you remember?
I'm sorry, I
was-
missed the question.
Go to settings, you see increase text editor font size.
Yeah,
Right.
but I'm not sure if it was text editor.
No, you need to
Yeah.
click on the cell, I think. You're still on the
Did
header.
Did you want to increase this font size?
JupyterLab.
Yes, the font size of the JupyterLab. You know, you explain how to
oh,
decrease the
Yep.
font size by
I
adding
think,
hashtag.
yeah, I think this is the biggest it can get
All right.
because I was clicking. So when this used to be smaller, so I would go decrease text editor font size, have to click it multiple times. But I think it wasn't text editor, it was different.
All right, thank you.
But for your header, the biggest size would just be 1 pound sign, and from there it decreases. So it would be 2, and then it decreases. JupyterLab tutorial, and you see it's smaller than the first one, like that. Okay.
Can you go again with the subheading? How you created a subheading?
So subheader is the same as the header, except you would just add another pound sign. And if you wanted to make it even smaller, you would just keep adding pound signs. So basically add more pound signs if you want to make your font smaller, your markdown smaller. So for example, header. So I run these two, and you notice this is smaller than this one because I added another pound sign or hashtag. Sorry. Do you guys have any questions? Because I think I went over all the things that will be necessary in order to use a Jupyter Lab or Jupyter Notebook.
Okay, I have a question. I don't know if I can ask.
Yes.
I have a question. Okay, yeah, my concern is, can we plot at least a simple graph from the Jupyter Python? Can we plot a graph? Can we plot a graph of x against y axis or y against x axis?
Oh,
Hope you
okay.
understand my question.
Yeah, you want to plot. You want to create a plot.
Yeah.
So that's going to be covered in another tutorial, but I can quickly show how to do it. So
Okay.
so you would create. So in Python, it's oriented by object variables. So this is what you would call an object. Whatever is on the left-hand side of your equal sign. So x equals let's see. I'm not going to go over what I'm doing right now because this will be covered later, but I just want to show you how to create a plot. So and y equals p dot a range 20, 50 fields dot plot x y. Oh. So this is how you create a plot. It's with this package called matplotlib. which somebody will go over. And so in order to, okay. I'm jumping a lot of steps because like I said, it'll be covered in another tutorial, but this is a plotting package you could use. And in order to use a package in a JupyterLab, you would have to import it. So you would start by typing in import, and then you type in the name of the package. And specifically for Matplotlib, I want to use this particular function or module is what it's called. And I am renaming it as PLT, or a shorthand for plot. And in order to rename, you would write as PLT. So that's what I did for NumPy as well. I renamed it. NumPy is another package that's very powerful, and it has a lot of functions that will help you do a lot of like arithmetic or complex math functions, and you would import that as well. So you import NumPy, and I renamed it as NP, just because you don't want to have to constantly write NumPy, and then it's just shorter for you, a shorthand. And so I created two object variables, X and Y, because you wanted to see X against Y. And I just created random numbers. NP A range basically goes from 0 to 30 in steps of 1. And then I created a Y object with the same function, np.arange, from 20 to 50. And in order to plot it, I just did PLT, which again is matplotlib, dot plot, which is the method. It's called a method or function to plot the two object variables against each other. And this is your plot. This is beyond the scope of what I should cover today, but since you asked the question, I just wanted to show you a plot.
Yeah,
And you can make
you. Yeah.
You're welcome. You can also make it more complex by adding more, I don't know, complex oh wait, what? Sine of, let me see. I'm just trying to plot sine 3 times 3 pi. Ugh. Paige, how do you make a sine wave? Let's see. I'm just playing around right now.
Okay. Can I ask a question?
Yes, of course, please.
Okay, so in the plot, if you want to have an intersection where this point where they meet on the line, kind of a tangent. So how do you do that?
Like find the midpoint?
No, like I mean each point, like X, Y, where they meet, it's a kind of a tangent on the line, on the straight line. So you find 0 to 20,
So I was just gonna
kind of you
interrupt
want to
quickly.
put an asterisk. Yeah, you want to put an asterisk to show on the line where each point meet.
Okay.
So just quickly, this is supposed to be like the very basic kind of here's how to use Jupyter.
Yeah.
So if there are no other questions, you're welcome to answer that, Shanice. Otherwise, Benson, I think you're the one who asked the question. We'll be going actually into how to do programming starting next week.
Okay.
So that's a good question, but and again, you're welcome to answer it if there aren't other questions. But yeah, the goal of this was really what is Jupyter and how are we using it? So just to make sure that we stay on topic. Also,
Yeah,
I have to go. So
okay.
Stay on and answer questions if you'd like. Thanks everyone for joining, and I will see you all tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you, Paige. Will you stop recording or do I?
Either way, are you able to stop it if I started it?
Let me I don't know. I'm still sharing my screen, so
Okay, I can just stop it. That's easier.
okay. Yeah, it's just questions at this point.
Yeah. Okay. I will stop it now.